if someone was very believed in equal gender rights, but all of a sudden are leaning towards like traditional values, and that might be a sign that they're becoming more extremist.
Apparently, people in Canada are quite literally, according to mainstream media reporting and the RCMP, overthrow the government. Also, unions are now complaining about the fact that the Liberal government wants to save a lot of money, which would mean cutting in the public sector. I'm not really sure that I'm understanding. I thought saving was good, but apparently saving is bad, and people are advocating for Liberals to spend more money. Go figure. Pleb Poilievre is back. Oh, sorry. The reporter Pleb the reporter is back finally after a month or 2 or 3 long vacation. And we're going to be playing one of his highlights, talking about what he thinks Pierre Poilievre should have done during the campaign and what we're both hoping he'll do in the near future. And then Trump is battling Putin, and it's not looking that good. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I really want to encourage everybody to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does tremendously. It tremendously helps grow the channel. I don't say that to be annoying, despite people thinking that I do say that. I say that because 60 or 70% of you are reoccurring viewers and you're not subscribed. Maybe it's because you're not logged in. I get it. Why log into YouTube when it just pops up on your TV? But hey, do your boy a favor and just subscribe. Subscribe before the tariffs come. I don't even know what that means, but neither do you. All right, we're going to start off with President Trump talking about how he's been battling out with Putin. And, well, to directly quote him, we get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin.
Any questions? Yes.
Yes, sir. You just said that you're not happy with Vladimir Putin. Is there anything that you plan to do to act on that feeling of unhappiness?
Well, I wouldn't be telling you. Don't we want to have a little surprise? You know, one of the things we did with the attack is that you asked that question. I didn't mean to be rude, but I'm rude because I'm looking at some of these crooked people up here, so I'm rude. But your question was asked very nicely. But one of the things we did is we went over every fact. We wanted to get every fact straight. We wanted to have the distance straight, the number of pilots straight. Everything had to be correct because we want to be. This was a very important mission. If we failed on this mission, it was beyond the war that obviously we had with Iran and Israel, and a lot of hatred, a lot of years and years of hatred, centuries of hatred. People have never seen anything like it. So we wanted to be correct with all our facts. So what I was doing is just asking. It would be great if the media would be correct with their facts. That's all we ask for. So go ahead. So finish it up.
Oh yes. Just returning back to Russia. If there's anything that you would signal about your displeasure with them.
Well, look. I'm very unhappy with them. There's no reason for this. It's turned out to be tougher, but it's only tougher. And I will say the Ukrainians were brave, but we gave them the best equipment ever made. We gave them the anti-tank busters that.
And to add on top of that, I believe President Trump wants to send even more. It's either to Ukraine or Israel. And I think that North America needs to be focusing on America and North America things. That's just my opinion, folks. I'd absolutely love to know yours. At the same time, I'm able to recognize that there are immense global threats like China and Russia and North Korea and all of BRICS. And America's got to do their part in the geopolitical game. So go get them, Tiger. But at the same time, let's also do America/North America first, please. Hopefully, maybe, fingers crossed. Anyways, speaking of first, the Pleb reporter, his first video back, and he had this to say about Pierre Poilievre. Rightfully so. This isn't negative. He's not attacking Pierre. He's not dunking on Pierre. He's not roasting Pierre. This is something that we all know and have all said to some capacity.
Start deporting, says JoJo. Yes. And that's another thing. That's another thing. So during the election, I kept saying on Twitter and X, I'm like, Pierre, You got to talk about immigration. You got to talk about immigration. You got to make immigration the issue of the election. They want to make it about Trump. You got to make it about immigration. I said this about 1 week into the campaign. I said, we got to flip this campaign into an immigration campaign. And guess what? Guess what? After we lose the election, the conservatives are now talking about immigration and like, we need negative immigration, this and that. It's like, hey man, you could have just read my Twitter. You could.
Yeah. I mean, look, this isn't, hopefully I'm not taking this out of context. Pleb, if I am, blast me. I do apologize, but this isn't the pleb blasting Pierre at all. He's saying something that even I've said on this channel. We've all said it. We all wanted Pierre to lean in more into the immigration piece because it is ruining the country. It's not racist. It's not sexist. It's not whatever, phobic. It's the reality. Literally, Tim Hortons is now called Sing Hortons. You have people on TikTok, mostly from India, that are literally, they have tutorials on how to scam us, not telemarketers. I mean, taxpayers, by coming here in hordes through claiming LGBTQSLI plus status or whatever. And it's just getting to the point where the average person, even a liberal, is able to walk around the superstore, Tim Hortons, Sing Hortons, anywhere and go, something looks a little different. Despite what the media tries to tell you, that is not racist to make that observation. If it were happening in other countries where they were getting flooded with Canadians who all talk about like this and like that, and oh, hey, bud, let's go out for a rip. You know what I'm saying? And people would be like, oh, it's getting a little Canadian here, right? Like, what's going on? So if the shoe was on the other foot, it would absolutely have been nipped in the bud. But again, progressive North America, progressive Canada, nothing's been done. But I mean, albeit Pierre is now somewhat kind of tiptoeing a little bit around immigration, the fact that we need somehow negative immigration to combat the housing crisis, the job crisis, the medical crisis, the food crisis, the money crisis, the crises of the crisis, the crisis of the crises of the crisis. Like, it just goes on and on. Like, we need negative immigration. We need to deport. There's like 5 million people whose visas expire this year or in the next 12 months, and we need to deport them. We need ice, baby. We need frozen ice. We need whatever America's doing now, because it's getting bad. But again, my opinion mixed in with some truth in the facts. I would love to know yours. So we got to talk about this story of the RCMP criminally charging active members of the Canadian Armed Forces for plotting acts of terror. Now, I'm not taking sides here. I'm not saying that what these people did was innocent and isn't worthy of criminal charges, nor am I saying good job, RCMP. I think that anyone who's able to successfully stop terrorism, period, whether it's citizens initiative or citizens arrest or actually using the law, is good. I'm like anti-terrorism, 100% thumbs up. But the way that the RCMP is conducting themselves in trying to educate the public on this is very, very weird and bizarre. Like, I'm actually a little speechless. Let's take a look at this clip here, because it turns out that if you have traditional values, you're an extremist.
And when you're finally, I wanted to ask, when you're talking about seeing individuals engage in that anti-authority and perhaps escalating their beliefs or their motives in that level, I'm wondering what the public can do in order to be vigilant, or what they can do to help in trying to ensure that there is safety and security on that front.
Well, radicalization in general quite often will show by people isolating themselves and changing their behavior, like changing what they're saying on a subject, like becoming more extremist. Like, and if someone you know was very believed in equal gender rights, but all of a sudden are leaning towards like traditional values, and that might be a sign that they're becoming more extremist. But we also have to remember that having the most extremist views is perfectly legal in Canada, and that it's only acting with violence to prove that view that becomes a criminal offense.
Well, thank you so much for offering some clarity here. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Watch out for people that have extremist views who may also turns out to have traditional views and values. Did I hear that right, or am I losing hearing and comprehension? That sounded a little weird. Maybe I wish I could say it was maybe a language barrier, but by the looks of this isn't a road constable. This is a staff sergeant of the RCMP, which requires that's probably a bilingual position, good amount of media training, good amount of English and French comprehension for speaking and for, understanding. And so I wish I could chalk that up to a language barrier slip up, but no, I firmly believe that Staff Sergeant Camille Habel, whatever, from the RCMP literally meant exactly what she said, that extremist views derive from those who have traditional values, not the purple-haired woke people that scream and cry at the top of their lungs because Donald Trump got elected in America. That's weird. I'm a little speechless on that. Again, I'm not defending what the terrorism acts or alleged attacks were. That's messed up. Absolutely stop terror, please, before it ever begins. But the way the RCMP, this little PR thing that they're doing, it's weird, man. That's all I got to say. That's just freaking traditional values. Watch out, dude. You might be an extremist. That's a little bizarre. Anyways, let's shift topics to something else, please. CBC, the bald guy from CBC who talks about these new tariffs. Okay. 50% new tariffs on Canada just got imposed, just got announced yesterday. How is this going to affect us? Because Canada and America is still going through trade negotiations and trade talks. This can't be good for us, but elbows up, right?
Well, less than 2 weeks away from the deadline to get tariffs off steel and aluminum, U.S. President Donald Trump targets another metal.
We did steel, as you know, they're 50%. We did aluminum, 50%. Lumber just came out. Now, today we're doing copper. I believe the tariff on copper, we're going to make it 50%.
So this copper tariff comes one day after the president announced new tariff rates for more than a dozen countries around the world, but he's delayed imposing those until August 1st. That's all in a push by the White House to strike more trade deals. So where does all this leave Canada? Well, William Pellerin is an international trade lawyer with Macmillan Vantage, and he joins you now. William, it's good to see you again. Thanks for being here, sir.
Thanks, David. Great being here.
Donald Trump is tariffing the entire periodic table the way he's going. I mean, what do you make of this in terms of the chances that Canada can get a deal by the 21st of July with the U.S., all of this stuff?
Yeah, it really feels like we're playing a gigantic game of whack-a-mole where Canadian businesses are the mole that try to come up for air and just get hit with a hammer over and over. In this case, it certainly is likely very disruptive to a deal being achieved between Canada and the United States. I mean, admittedly, the effects here on copper are a little bit more muted than they are, for example, on steel or autos. Canada produces a good amount of copper, but ships a lot of it off to Asia for processing, and then it goes into the United States. So maybe the impact is more on the U.S. consumer than on Canadian businesses. But then, nonetheless, this is definitely going to hurt some sectors of the Canadian economy, and probably might delay us a little bit on reaching our own deal with the U.S.
But, you know, here it is, yet another tariff under the Section 232 law, right? That it's national security, right? He did this with autos, he did this with steel, he did this with aluminum. I mean, how do you even begin to navigate a negotiation with an administration that uses national security laws, threats, as the justification for practically everything?
That's exactly that's a good question. I mean, this is principally to deal with China. And let's not forget that the United States gets there's a lot of copper coming from China. China is the largest producer of refined copper in the world by quite some margin. And so it once again looks like Canada gets a little bit of collateral damage here. Though we are an important producer, we're nowhere near as large as China. So it really does throw us for a loop every time that the U.S. president wants to do something on national security, and we get hit by accident, though he'll never say that or admit to that. So very difficult, and that's why I think the government has been trying to negotiate security and defense deal with the United States, where in exchange for that kind of secure binational border security and national defense arrangement, we can get knocked off the list of these Section 232 sectoral tariffs.
Yeah, until there's another list. I mean, this is the challenge, right? That you just stick you on that one. But, the copper is one thing. There were this series of letters sent.
Canada is so bad at negotiations that President Trump is trying to do a copper tariff on specifically China, and Canada is getting collateral damage, emotional damage, and our prime minister is not negotiating an exemption from Canada, even though it's not a big export that we have. It still is an export, and I'm assuming most of that business goes to America, so now that's all tariffed to 50%. I mean, it's ridiculous. If Mark Carney was truly a good negotiator, President Trump would have come out yesterday during this announcement and said, and we're going to do 50% tariffs on copper, except Canada, the great 51st state, they're exempt. Like, that's exactly what he could have said, and to be honest, should have said. I would have rather him mock the 51st state or even refer to Carney as governor of Canada than for Canada to collaterally get damaged by what seems to be Trump's attack on China, but yet hurts Canada. You can't make this up. This is how bad of a negotiator Mark Carney is. And I really hope some point soon the elbows up crowd really starts to acknowledge the fact that they made a big error. And hopefully enough people realize that, get the buyer's remorse, and make the right decision at the next election. Because it seems like people want to spend. We're now taking a look at how a union warns that ambitious government savings could mean public sector cuts. Isn't that what they literally tried to attack Pierre Poilievre over, and now Carney's the one doing it? Interesting.
Prime Minister Mark Carney's cabinet has been tasked with finding ambitious savings ahead of the fall budget. Ministers are being asked to find ways to reduce spending over the next 4 years, 7.5% next year, up to 10% the year after that, and a total of 15% by 2028-2029. But some things will remain untouched, including social programs like dental care and early child care, and transfers to provinces to pay for their initiatives. Ottawa says it's not a job-cutting exercise, but either way, it's leaving public sector workers questioning their future. Because this is as Carney looks to make good on his campaign promise to slash the increase in the government's operation costs from 9% annually to just 2%. So what could all of this mean for Canada's public service? Sharon D'Souza is the national president of the Public Service Alliance of Canada, and she joins me here in the studio. Sharon D'Souza, it's good to meet you. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Those are big numbers when you look at this. Now, it's only identify the savings, it's not implement the savings, but what are your thoughts on how that direction, that signal, could impact things in the public service?
Well, it depends on the department that you're looking at. And at the end of the day, it takes people to make these services happen. And whether it's employment insurance, it's your passport, it's parental benefits that you're relying on, all of these require people to do the jobs. So the question is, where are these cost savings coming from, and how will that decision be made? Right now, the government is asking departments to provide their I guess you can say their proposals on how they would meet these targets. But what does this mean for the average person who's
Hold on. Do you mean to say that you're wanting a budget on what the government is or isn't spending money on, and that would greatly benefit everyone in this country, conservatives, liberals, and everyone in between or very different? Because just as a country, as taxpayers, it's nice to know what the hell we're spending money on and what people voted for. Huh. Interesting.
Looking for services. It means longer wait times, and it means that they're not getting the service that they need.
It's interesting when you look at what's not going to be touched, right? Transfers to individuals, pension money, OAS, and other transfers, and transfers to provinces, and those programs that the Liberals have built out for a number of years. So when you ring fence those and tack the percentage on what's left, it brings the dollar amount way down. But really, a lot of that is just jobs and salaries. I mean, what are your thoughts there on what it can mean for the actual members of the public sector?
What it could mean is job cuts. Realistically, that's what it means. Because at the end of the day, these workers have very limited resources, and there's very few people to do the work in itself. Our population has grown. There's been a greater uptake of services. And at the end of the day, who actually relies on the services? The most vulnerable of our society. And so right now, we're asking people to do more with less. But as federal government service workers, they are the first line of defense for this government. And so they take what they do quite seriously, and there's very little slippage in between. So asking them to cut more, that means salaries and benefits, and that's what concerns me greatly.
So when I was speaking with an official in the Department of Finance about this yesterday, what they said to me was that this is not intended to be a job-cutting exercise. They do want to rebalance the public service. This annual rate of growth of 9% is way outstripping GDP and revenue growth and is not seen as sustainable. But the job losses they suggested would largely come through retirement, as people leave, the attrition approach. And then the Prime Minister has talked about using AI to make things more productive and efficient inside government. Do you buy that they can hit targets like this without big job losses?
I don't see how they could do that. And the reason why I'm saying this is because who can retire in this economy? Right now, the cost of living has gone up. Can people actually retire with dignity and respect?
Nope, the answer is no. Should have voted Conservative, plain and simple. Buyer's remorse. It's coming harder than ever. Just like Trump said, it's gonna come. This is insane. People are now realizing Carney's not the person that they voted for if they voted for him. But Conservatives knew that all along, since it was literally being screamed by the rooftops by everybody who was voting blue or not voting for the Liberals. This is insane. He's going to cut so many jobs. I feel bad for people whose jobs are going to get cut. This could have been avoided. This should have been avoided. And it might be avoidable if, I don't know, there's like political pressure on some form of an earlier election. Not right now, because I don't think there's enough momentum, and I don't feel like enough people have woken up. But soon, once there's a little bit more harm done to our economy by Mark Carney, then I think, and look, that pendulum goes further and further up or to the right or however you want to view it. The heat is increasing daily. Things are getting worse by the day is what I'm trying to say. And so, I don't know, a week, if there's an election a week, maybe. No, I think that's a little too early. 6 months or a year from now, possibly. I think people are going to start to realize that Carney is a big freaking fraud, and they voted in for not Justin Trudeau, but somebody who's significantly worse than Justin Trudeau. Somehow. Peak evolution. Yikes. Anyways, I'm glad I didn't vote for him. Maybe you can also share that sentiment that we can both be glad that we didn't vote for the guy, yet laugh instead of cry because Canada is so sad. On that note, I'm going to end the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, again, you know where I'm going with this. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.